Hello everyone, Stormy Strike here, and it is that time of year once again. This is my 4th annual BreyerFest Surprise Horse speculation video. In this video, I'm going to try and guess what the BreyerFest Surprise Horse is by eliminating what molds it probably won't be and predicting what it might be based on BreyerFest patterns and use of their molds for different models. If you don't know what the BreyerFest Surprise Horse is, it's a special run model Breyer releases at BreyerFest every year, which started in 2009. The model is a complete surprise until someone opens one on the Friday morning of BreyerFest. The surprise or gambler's choice model is used on one mold, and it typically comes in 4 different color variations with both matte and glossy finish, making a total of 8 possible models you could receive. I do have a disclaimer. I do not work for Breyer. I do not actually know what the BreyerFest surprise model is. I'm just guessing and speculating, and I encourage you to do the same and let me know what your guess for the BreyerFest 2018 Dark Horse Surprise model will be in the comment section down below. Now, with this being my 4th time doing this video, I'm not going to go over everything in depth on the elimination process like I have before. I'm just going to sum up how I eliminate the molds I'm like 90% sure the surprise horse won't be. If you want to see my more in-depth process of discovering this, you can check out my previous speculation videos. To sum it up, I basically eliminate Breyer molds that are already being used as special runs or store specials that year, and molds that have already been used as the BreyerFest Surprise Horse in previous years. I am also assuming that the Surprise Horse will be an adult traditional horse, which means no donkeys, classics, stablemates, etc. I'm also assuming, based on the molds for the past 7 Surprise Horses, that it will likely not be a vintage mold, meaning I don't think it will be a mold that is 20 plus years old or made before 1999. Now, last year's BreyerFest Surprise Horse was interesting because it didn't really correlate much with the theme of BreyerFest that year. It was called the Bollywood Surprise for the BreyerFest Gateway to India theme, but they used a stock horse. Go figure. I mean, I guess the Latigo mold could look like he's dancing, sort of, but this has led me to believe that we can really not rely on the BreyerFest themes for guessing what the mold the surprise horse will be on. The surprise horse for BreyerFest 2018 is called the Dark Horse Surprise, and this is the image they used for it. As you can see, the image looks similar to the Ruffian mold, or the Bella Running Thoroughbred classic mold. But we know it won't be either of these because I doubt they are going to use a classic model, and the Ruffian mold is already being used as a Gambler's Choice special run for Dead Heat. I'm honestly not sure how to feel about this inclusion of an actual image of a horse for the Surprise Horse logo. This is the first time Breyer has had a horse silhouette in it like this, and I'm not sure what to think that it means they are going to be putting the Surprise Horse on a racing mold like this, or that it's simply a way to misguide our guesses and it could wind up being something completely different, like a draft horse or something. Also, its name, Dark Horse, no, not that Katy Perry song or the comics, but the phrase or saying which means a candidate or competitor about whom little is known but who unexpectedly wins or succeeds. Is this Breyer telling us that it won't be like the horse that is used on the picture if it's going to be a model that is little known or unexpected? Or does Breyer think that we'll think that and then surprise us by using a mold that seems really obvious? I honestly have no idea, but I feel like Breyer has sort of been sticking to the BreyerFest theme of racing this year, with having special runs on both the Ruffian and Lonesome Glory molds. So maybe the surprise horse is going to be sticking to the theme of horse racing, but that could also be broad, as horse racing isn't just thoroughbreds racing on a track. It could also mean a quarter horse doing barrel racing or any other type of horse racing sports. With that, I think the surprise horse could be almost any newer Breyer mold that isn't eliminated from the list I'm about to show you. But I do think that the surprise horse for this year will be somewhat related to horse racing in some way. So without further ado, here's the list of all the Breyer traditional molds and what I think will definitely not be used, will probably not be used, and might be used as the BreyerFest Dark Horse surprise. Here is the first page of Breyer traditional molds. Things that I've X'd out in red, I believe are almost 100% sure are not going to be used as the surprise horse. Molds that are X'd out in gray, I'm pretty sure are not going to be used as molds for various reasons. And then molds I highlight in green means I think they could be a strong possibility as a mold used for the BreyerFest surprise horse. I've eliminated some molds from this page, and then there's one that I think is a fairly good possibility. Now, the reason why I chose the American Saddlebred Stallion as a possibility for the Dark Horse surprise model is because it hasn't really been used a lot. It is a newer mold. I feel like it's fairly popular. I know it doesn't really have anything to do with racing though, but I don't know why, but I just kind of felt like this could be a possibility. I could see them possibly doing it. Now, the reason why I didn't choose Marabella is because I think she's just a little bit older, a little less popular, and doesn't fit the racing theme. I didn't choose the Marchador because I just don't really see them using him, as he was just a recent BreyerFest celebration horse, and I don't think they're really going to be using his mold much until next year anyway. I didn't choose the Marwari because he was used as a celebration horse last year, and I just kind of don't see them using him again so soon. The Missouri Foxtrotter is not a strong possibility either, I don't feel like, because he is not nearly as popular and doesn't really fit the racing theme at all. On to page 2. The Andalusian mare is a little iffy for me. I think she could still kind of be a possibility. The reason why I picked the Andalusian stallion as a possibility is because he hasn't really been used a whole lot recently, I feel like, and he could make a nice surprise horse. Now for the Arabian mare, even though it is shown as 3 different molds, they are all very similar and often kind of considered the same mold. I think she's actually a fairly good possibility because of her popularity and because maybe she could kind of fit the racing theme. I mean, Arabians have been used for horse racing is my thought. Even though she isn't really in a racing stance or anything, I just kind of feel like she could be a possibility. I still feel like Breyer is going to one day use her as a BreyerFest surprise horse because of how popular she is, especially if they do different head and neck variations and mane and tail variations on the mold. I also chose the Mustang mare as a possibility because she kind of maybe looks like she could be racing. I could kind of see them using her, although she is definitely not one of my more top possibilities. I just think it is possible because she is new and maybe fairly popular. For myself, I really hope that she isn't the surprise horse though, because I conga this mold and so I really don't want to have to try and get all 8 variations of her or something. I just still kind of marked her down as a possibility. Now, I didn't choose Rejoice or the National Show Horse because I just really don't see them using her. I feel like she doesn't fit the theme at all really well and just is a little bit on the older side. I just don't really see it. On the next page, I actually don't have any strong possibilities. Now, Ashquire could be a possibility, but I just kind of doubt it, especially since he was just released as a regular run recently, and he doesn't really fit the theme much, like his pose isn't really a racing pose at all. Big Ben is kind of not really a possibility either, since he is on the older side, not really quite as popular I feel like, and doesn't really fit the racing theme, even though he's got kind of a sporty look to him though. Newsworthy is also a sporty model I feel like kind of could fit the horse racing theme, but for some reason I just really don't feel like it's going to be used this time around as a surprise horse. Othello, draft horse, I don't really see him being used unless Breyer does pull a crazy thing on us and does something that is completely not a horse racing like model at all. So in that sense, if Breyer is really going for a surprise, then maybe they would use the Othello mold, but I'm kind of doubting it since they are sticking fairly closely to the theme this year. On the 4th page here, I listed Bluegrass Bandit as a possibility just because I think her mold is fairly popular and I can just still really see them using her as a surprise horse some year. I know I've had her as a possibility of the surprise horse for like 2 previous surprise horse speculations, but I just really could see them doing that for her, especially since they haven't really been using her a whole lot for like regular runs and such. I don't really see them using Bouncer because he's a little bitty pony. I don't really see them using the Peruvian Paso, just really doesn't fit the theme at all, and he's not really that popular. On the 5th page, I don't have any strong possibilities on here either. A lot of molds are marked out for being used as models this year already or being previous surprise horse. On the 6th page, I don't really see them using the Cantering Welsh Pony or Rain. Now, I do see them using Cigar. Even though he is an older mold, he is a racehorse. He'd fit the theme perfectly. I think he is actually a pretty strong contender for being the surprise horse. It would make a lot of sense for them to use his mold. Now, the reason I chose the Cleveland Bay as a possibility is because this mold is kind of a sporty mold. He could kind of fit the theme of racing, I feel like, and he is a pretty popular mold, so I could see him as being a possibility. On this page, I don't have really any strong contenders. The Connemara mare just doesn't really fit it at all as a pony, and she isn't looking like she's racing or anything. Destado, I feel like he could kind of be a possibility, but he just really doesn't fit it at all, I think. Same thing with Serlano. He is kind of a sporty mold, but he is doing a dressage move. He is not really looking like he is ready to go out really racing at all. So I don't feel that one as much, but he is kind of a possibility for me too. Now on this page, the one I think is actually a fairly good contender is the Shagia Arabian mold. Now, I know she was used as a BreyerFest special run last year though, and she was just recently released as a regular run unicorn. But I feel like her mold is very sporty, and she is, I'm assuming, fairly popular. I know I personally really love her, and I could just see them using her as a surprise horse. But I don't know if they'll really do that this year or not. On this page, the only one I really see being a possibility at all is the show jumping Warmblood. I actually think this is a pretty strong contender because he is in a running pose. He is maybe not really so much a thoroughbred, but he does have a racing, sporty-like look. I could definitely see them using him, especially since he hasn't really been used much in quite a while from Breyer. On this page, I have two strong possibilities. Now, I also do kind of the possibility of Silver, although I really doubt it, but I think he is still kind of a possibility because of his popularity. Smart Chickalina, I don't think is a strong contender, even though he could be like quarter horse, stock horse, racing events. I just don't really see them using him. Same thing with Goffert, I could kind of see them using him, but at the same time, I really don't see them using him this year. Now, Giselle is a warm-blood mare. She may not be racing, but she does have a sporty look to her, so I thought maybe she could be used. I know I've had her as possibilities in previous years as well, but I just think that she is a nice mold that they could definitely put a surprise horse on one year. Although I don't really feel super strongly about them using her this year, I think she's still a fairly good possibility. Now, Smarty Jones is probably the most obvious possibility for the surprise horse this year, because he is a racehorse in a racing pose, a little bit similar to the pose on the horse for the Dark Horse Surprise logo thing. So he is obviously probably one of the strongest possibilities for it, but at the same time I feel like maybe he's a little too strong of a possibility. I'll be getting into that in a minute. On this 11th page, most of the models are eliminated on this page for various reasons. The only one I could kind of see being a possibility is the Gypsy Vanner or Brishan or Lairdo, however you say his name, molds, but I really doubt it. I just don't think it's what they're going to be doing this year at all. Again, on the 12th page, there are no strong possibilities that I really have. I didn't choose Huckleberry Bay because I just don't feel it this year for him. I feel like they could maybe actually use him as a surprise horse one year maybe, but this really just doesn't feel like what they'd use him for. I don't think Secession will be used because there's really nothing sporty about her at all. I don't think they'll use Totalis, but he is kind of a possibility in my mind because of his sporty appearance, but like Serlano, he's doing a dressage move, he's not really racing, so yeah. On the second to the last page here, I have three rather strong possibilities. One is the trotting Arabian mare. I know she was one of my top guesses, I think, for last year's surprise horse. but I just seriously could see Breyer using her since they haven't been using her a whole lot. They used her as Rhapsody in Black as a regular run semi-recently, but I could still see them using her as a surprise horse. She is popular, she does kind of fit the racing theme I feel like, and has a sporty appearance. I just could kind of see her being a possibility. Now you may be confused why I picked Vallegro, but I didn't pick Sarleno or Totalis. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing names wrong, by the way. Now the reason why I picked Vallegro is just because of his newness and popularity, but even that, I really don't think he's that strong of a contender. Now there's the Warm Blood Stallion. Now this guy I actually think is a very strong possibility because he may not be in a sporty running pose, but he has not really been used a whole lot besides Brunello recently. I'm really sorry for pronouncing names wrong, but he's just kind of an unexpected one, I feel like, too. I feel like no one's really thought about him very much, yet he kind of does fit the theme, I think. He may not be racing or running, but he does look like he could be a racing, competing horse of some sort. So that's why I think it might actually be a good possibility for him. And then on the last page, the last one I kind of sort of think is a possibility is Wyatt. He may be a stock horse, but he does look like he is jumping out of that gate ready to barrel race, of course, because he does look like he is a racing kind of gaming horse. So I could actually really kind of see them using him. He may not be a regular racehorse, but he has that sporty, racy attitude about him that I think makes him actually a fairly strong contender. Now if we show all the possibilities that I had marked out in green, we are left with, well, a lot still. These are 15 molds I think have some possibility to be the surprise horse. There's the American Saddlebred, the Andalusian, Just a Dream, Forever Siege, Bluegrass Bandit, Smarty Jones, Warm Blood Stallion, Cigar, Cleveland Bay, Shaggy Arabian, Show Jumping Warblood, Giselle, Weather Girl, Vallegro, and Wyatt. That is a whole lot of horses. So we are of course going to narrow this list down quite a bit to my personal top 5 picks for the Dark Horse Surprise model. Now my top 5 picks for the BreyerFest Surprise Horse this year, in no particular order, are Smarty Jones, the Show Jumping Warmblood, Cigar, Weather Girl, or Idicus. Now the reason I chose these as my top 5 guesses for the Dark Horse Surprise is because I think they do all fit the theme fairly well. Now I know Breyer could throw us a curveball and make the surprise horse a mold no one was expecting that doesn't really fit the theme at all. I'm looking at you, Bollywood Surprise. But this year I do feel like Breyer is trying to stick more to that racehorse theme, because a lot of their models that have come out for this year are very racehorse themed and inspired. So I really do feel like this year they really are going to stick to the theme and do a horse that is a little bit more related to racehorsing. Now I will of course narrow it down to my top number 1 guess for the BreyerFest Surprise Horse. Now I know there's been a notable trend the past couple years in which the BreyerFest Surprise Horse has also been a live auction horse the year prior. For example, for the Samba Surprise in 2016, the Spree mold was also used as a live auction model in 2015. In 2017, the Bollywood Surprise on the Latigo mold, and that mold was used as a live auction horse in 2015. Now I still think this trend might be more of a coincidence than an actual pattern, as this pattern wasn't really followed for the CC Shuffle model in 2013, for example. I think Breyer just does a lot of different auction models and they use them on popular molds, and it just so happens that a lot of times they end up also being the surprise horse mold. But it should be noted, if we are going to recognize this as a possible pattern for the surprise horse, then from these top 5 molds I've picked, there are 3 of them that were a live auction horse in last year's 2017 BreyerFest. Smarty Jones, the Show Jumping Warmblood, and the Warm Blood Stallion, or Idicus, were all 3 BreyerFest 2017 live auction horses. So does that mean these 3 are more likely to be the BreyerFest Surprise Horse? Another thing to maybe think about is how some of the BreyerFest Surprise models have had different manes and tails for the different models. For example, Roxy in 2013 had both a long mane version and a braided mane version, and last year's Bollywood Surprise had a Latigo with a long mane and tail and short mane and tail version. Now with that in mind, Breyer has done different variations for the show jumping warm blood mane. They have a braided version for the mane and tail and a long free flowing version of the mane and tail. Same thing with the warm blood stallion or Idicus. They have a braided version and then a free flowing version. So I could see either of these two molds being used as the surprise horse and having different mane and tail variations along with the different color variations. And then I'm sorry, Smarty Jones also has had mane and tail variations, such as having the roached mane and braided tail as a polo pony. So Smarty Jones could also be another mold in which they use the mane and tail variations for the surprise horse. Based on the BreyerFest patterns and the possibilities for the mold and fitting the theme, these three are definitely my top 3 picks for the BreyerFest surprise horse, which is Smarty Jones, the show jumping warm blood, and the warm blood stallion or Idicus. As I'm sitting here looking at these 3 different molds, I also realize they're all actually sculpted by the same sculptor, who is Susan Carlton Sifton. I just thought that was funny that my top 3 picks for my guests for the surprise horse are all by the same sculptor. I don't think that's really happened before. Now the question is, which one do I pick as my number 1 top guess for the Dark Horse surprise? It is seriously really hard for me to actually even choose between these 3 models on what my number 1 guess is going to be. I really almost do want to say Smarty Jones just because he does fit it so perfectly, but I don't know. Again, it's kind of weird that they have a horse silhouette as a part of the surprise horse logo, and I feel like that's just kind of throwing off my guesses on what it could be because I don't know if it's going to be what's super obvious or what's not super duper obvious. But either way, I think Smarty Jones is a super duper good possibility as being the surprise horse, and they haven't used him a whole lot. He's pretty popular. I definitely can see it. So as obvious as it seems, I'm wondering if Breyer is going to be doing the obvious route this time and maybe actually do Smarty Jones after all. Alright, you know what? I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with my number 1 guess being Smarty Jones. My second place guess is the show jumping warm blood. My third place guess is the warm blood stallion. And I'll also do my 4th place guess, and that would be Cigar. So there you have it. There are my guesses for the BreyerFest Dark Horse surprise. If Breyer wasn't staying so close to the theme with some of their other models, I would be more inclined to pick less obvious molds for the surprise horse. But the fact that they have so many racehorse models in this year's BreyerFest, I mean, the early bird raffle model is a racehorse model. Even their store specials are going with the racing theme pretty well. They have 2 thoroughbred style molds for special runs already. Their decorator is based after racing silks. Their stablemates are based after racehorses and race-related things. And then their pop-up shop models having a standardbred crystal horse. Their stablemate model is an actual racehorse with racing tack and a rider. Their Decorator Classic has racehorses on it. And their pop-up shop plush horse is basically just a bunch of racing silks. So despite how obvious of a choice it is, I think Smarty Jones is going to be the Dark Horse surprise. Now I also want to speculate just a little bit briefly here about the colors the surprise horse might be. So as most of us probably already know here, it is more than likely going to come in 4 different color variations. One color we can be sure that at least one of the variations will be is a pinto coloring of some sort, as all the BreyerFest surprise models have come in pinto coloring at least for one of the variations, although in the past 5 years, I believe, there have been 2 pinto variations of the 4. And then we can also speculate that there will possibly be a solid color one, maybe an Appaloosa, and maybe even a decorator, as in 2016 there was a decorator surprise horse. I could see them doing some sort of racehorse related decorator for the Dark Horse surprise. Now, I know the name Dark Horse automatically makes us think that maybe one of these surprise horse model variations will be a black horse or dark colored or something. I'm kind of doubting they'll do a solid black horse. They might do like a black pinto. Personally, I hope they don't do just a solid black horse. Hopefully they do it with like some detail or something, or do a shaded black, or something that's more than just a solid black horse if they do end up having a dark black horse in there somewhere. But I don't think we should count or rely on that happening, because I don't think just because it's called the Dark Horse Surprise that they're going to make any of the variations a dark colored horse. But who knows, they might. I could see them doing a black Appaloosa or pinto variation. So there you have it, guys. There is all my thoughts about the BreyerFest Dark Horse Surprise model and what it might be. But I want to know what you guys think too. Just because these are my guesses don't mean that they're going to be any way right or anything. I was completely wrong in my guesses last year, so you just really never know. I want to know what your guys' guesses are, so let me know in the comment section down below what you think the Dark Horse Surprise model will be. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I've done a bunch of other BreyerFest videos if you want to check those out. I've started a BreyerFest Survival Guide series. I've had past videos about BreyerFest and my BreyerFest experiences. I have current videos talking about BreyerFest 2018. And I of course have the past BreyerFest speculation videos I've done if you want to check those out and see what my guesses were in previous years. If you would like to check me out on my other social media pages and things I'm doing between uploads, you can find me on all these other social media places. I hope you all have a super duper awesome day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!